Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. My name is Sanjay Gidwani, and we're doing this podcast for Agentify and SME Guru. Well, today's a very important topic. I want to talk to you about the rent is due. This is the sign. This is what your landlord says to you every month. Every month and then every year, they say, let's put the price up. Inflation's gone up, CPI, it's in your contract. And quite frankly, I think as small business owners, we all need to be wary of this sign, of this action that landlords take. It's another nail in the coffin of running your small business. I know what it's like to run a small business, and I'm sick of greedy, fat landlords trying to take advantage of their small business customers. Now, I'm a landlord. I'm invested in property. I suggest to you, in fact, a part of what I do is suggesting that people invest in property. I think there are good landlords. I think there's a way to be a fair and equitable landlord and make a great investment. And then I think there are greedy scoundrel landlords. And some of them own some of Australia's, and in fact, some of the world's largest shopping malls. Those people that run those businesses have no conscience, have no heart. The minute you move on from your Dunkin' Donuts franchise, from your Gloria Jean's coffee franchise, from your little kiosk mobile phone store, from a well-running restaurant, a butchery, Asian supermarket, discount dollar store, whatever it is that you're running in that shopping center complex can be very, very quickly moved on, and they'll put another tenant there. And all they need to do that, all they need is to go to their contract. Deep in their contract will be a relocation clause, and they can move you from the busiest section of a shopping mall to the quietest section of a shopping center. Anyone that's in brick and mortar retail knows that location. In fact, it's a real estate, I guess, goal. It's a real estate principle, number one. Location. And that is very true as well of retail and, in fact, some other small businesses. So I want to talk to you about why being a landlord is important. And in fact, a lot of what I do is teach business owners how to become landlords. I want you to own your property that you run your business in, or own an investment where you are the landlord. Why do I say this? I say this because I'm passionate about small business. I've had a small business. I've sold small businesses. If you have a small business and you're relying on the sale of that business to help you with your retirement, to help you fund your child's college education, pay for your dream holidays and golf course memberships, I want to tell you something. Once you sell that business, somehow the banks don't really want to know you. The credit terms change. You get a few less credit cards. Things start to hurt a little bit because all of a sudden it's just bills coming in and no cash flow. Now, how do you offset that? Well, if you've been sound in your investment choices, while you've been building a business, you've been making investments along the way, or in fact, you own the property that your business is in. It's very important. It's something I'm so passionate about. And I want you to listen to me carefully. I want you to understand why. First and foremost, there's only one word in the English language where common folk get called something that is as regal as a lord, and that is a landlord. It's still a term that was used today, widely used today, and you think about what that means. What was a lord under the feudal system? What is the word lord under certain religions? And what sort of, I guess, relevance and respect is given to the term landlord? It's a significant factor, and it should be something that we all aspire to be, because it really is. In my definition, I know everyone's got definitions of success, but to me, the definition of success is when you are earning an income off your investments and allowed to live your life, able to live your life without having to toil, work using your man hours. Right? Your investments are paying for your lifestyle. I think that's the definition of success. And inherently in that definition is being a landlord. Now, banks love it, right? Banks will give you debt on real estate. They will not give you any debt on shares, bonds, gold, anything else you want to do. You tell them, hey, bank, I need $1 million. I'm going to put in 20%, for these shares that I want to invest in. Can you put in the other 80%? I want to buy some gold, Wells Fargo, ANZ. I want to buy some gold. I'm going to put in 10%. I'll pay that mortgage insurance thing. Can you just give me the other 90%? They're going to give you the middle finger. And the reason they're going to give you the middle finger is because they believe in real estate too. So switch on. Small business people, you're so smart. You're the smartest people that I believe exist on the planet. You're the smartest people certainly within any given economy. And you need to switch on to this. If you're not invested in real estate, you're wasting your golden ticket opportunity while you have your business to get money from the bank and make money by owning real estate, make a fortune off the capital gain of that real estate, pay your bills off the rent that's derived from that real estate, and have triple net leases in place that can deliver to you the very best of value. So it's something I'm very passionate about, guys. I've spent a long time speaking to people about this, and people come to me and they often ask me questions about their small business. And it's funny how all the questions and all the problems all tend to kind of focus on one problem, and that is the employee problem, the expenses problem, the cash flow problem, the marketing problem. Let me tell you something, guys. All those problems are your day-to-day business problem. They're always going to exist. They're always going to exist. They're not going anywhere. You want to grow your business from a small business to a medium business. You want to go from $1 million in sales to $20 million in sales. You're still going to have all those problems. But you know what? You know what's going to happen every month? Your rent is due. Just like it says on this t-shirt, made by Under Armour. Not a small business anymore, but was once a small business. And quite frankly, it's the one consistent thing that you're constantly paying an expense for. But you're never asking, why aren't I on the other side of this? Why aren't I the landlord? Or why aren't I the landlord at least to someone else? I can't afford this $3 million building that I'm in. But you can afford the $300,000 unit down the street that someone else is renting. You can afford that piece of land that's next to that gas station, that convenience store, that small storage unit that tradespeople are using. You can afford something. And so what I do in my business is I help busy, time poor business people find good property. And I don't do it because each deal that I buy allows me to, makes me millions and millions of dollars. I do it because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about property. I'm passionate about small business people. I'm passionate about creating a passive income, and I'm passionate about helping you. Now, I add value. People know that I add value, and that's why I've been so successful as a result. But the one thing that I want you to take away from today's discussion, from this video, and many of you are going to comment here. Some of you will reach out privately and tell me whether you agree or disagree. Please. I look forward to hearing the stories that you've got. But what I really want to get across today is that rent should be seen as an expense that can be changed. It can be offset through either property ownership or some other rent being received elsewhere. What I mean by that is it's dead money. We hear about it often. Rent money is dead money. And then we hear people saying, there's going to be a whole generation of people that won't own houses. Listen, guys, small business guys, you're so damn hardworking. You're so freaking smart. But just understand this. The big guys are not here to help you. The corporates. The Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks, they're not here for you, right? They're here to make their businesses bigger. The government is not going to help you. If you're in certain parts of the world, taxes have gone up recently. They gave out money during COVID, excessive amounts of money, more money than has ever been given out in the history of global economies. And now we're paying for it. Now let's go around with the tin cup to small businesses and ask them to pay a bit more. Let's all chip in together. We need to get back to a surplus. We've got a debt crisis. There's a debt ceiling. The budget is out of control. So the drunk sailors are in charge, and it's the hardworking guys and gals like you that are going to pay for it. The cafe owners, the hairdressers, the plumbers, the lawyers, the doctors, any small business, any professional small business, any unprofessional small business, any service-based business, product-based business, anyone that's turning over less than $50 million, you are getting screwed. And they don't want to talk about it. They don't want you to talk about it. They don't want me to talk about it. It's this great big secret that no one talks about. And I'm so disappointed that we have reached this point. Do you know that if every small business in this country, in any city in the world was to stop, if every small business in Sydney, for example, if every small business in Sydney decided to strike on the same day, the city would come to a standstill. The whole city would come to a standstill. And I think we should try that one day. I really do. I do have a vision that small business owners can come together and put a stake in the ground and say, you know what? We do have bargaining power. We do have collective power. We're so nice. We're so giving. We're so community minded. We're so family based that we don't often act together. But we might need to start doing that, guys. You know, when the train union decides to strike for trains or buses, it wreaks havoc. When the nurses union stands with placards outside, ministerial offices, things happen. Things get changed. Wages are increased. And I think that there is no voice for small business. In our economies, business is seen as almost as a dirty word. Business is not respected the way that it should be. It's assumed that they're profitable. It's assumed you've got more to give. They have no clue about your struggle. I do. I've been there. Oh, you're working 7 days a week. Oh, that's normal. Welcome to small business. Oh, you haven't been on an overseas holiday in 5, 10, 15, 20 years ever. Oh, yeah. Oh, you got your own business. Oh, that's why. Oh, you're a baker. Oh, wow, yeah. Gee, I hope you get to see your kids often, I mean, it's massive sacrifices. And we're making these sacrifices. We're paying taxes. And consider rent another tax. I mean, that my T-shirt says that, right? Consider rent another tax, because that's effectively what it is. And after a while, we all have to sit around and speak to each other and say, guys, what are we doing? What are we just paying and paying and paying for? And it's being gouged, it's being gouged from us. And I'm all for a great society. I'm all for a economy in which everyone wins, or at least everyone has certain access to healthcare and some of the great things that Western democracies provide. But I want to be a voice for people that don't know what that means and don't understand or appreciate small business. So, look, I digress a little bit. I do want to return back to, particularly landlord relevant issues. I do want to give you 3 tips here for signing your lease. First and foremost, guys, if you're negotiating for a lease with your landlord, you want to try and retain as much power as possible. And as the lessee, you actually do have quite a bit of power. Firstly, you want options. What is an option? For those of you that are asking, an option is a right to renew the lease. So as a lessee, when you hire a commercial property to run a business in, you have an option to renew the lease, meaning you can rent it for 3 years and then get a 3-year option, which is often referred to as a 3+3. Within that 3-year period, at the end of the first 3-year period, as the tenant, you have the right to leave that premises, to terminate the lease after 3 years. You also reserve the right, as the holder of the option, and that's what the option means, to renew the lease and go for another 3 years. So that's a very powerful controlling tactic that a lessee or a tenant has in their control, which is always to negotiate options. And in fact, some larger businesses will often do, 20-year leases with 10 one-year options. I have seen leases like that. I've seen leases with 5-year leases with a further 4 5-year options. There were in the past large institutional tenants that would do 50-year leases. Generally speaking, the longer the lease, the better it is for the landlord. But the more options you have, the more flexibility, obviously, for the tenant. So I'm not sure, if you're watching this, whether you're a tenant or a landlord. If you're a landlord, you probably want a straight up long lease, not broken up into options. But I do, and I am aware of business owners that are on leases. And, we're not going to change the nature of business owners renting commercial premises here overnight. There are a lot of you that are going to have leases upcoming and need to prioritize staying in a lease. I'm just telling you the best way to execute that. Number one, have an option, have as many options as is allowable to you. So in that same example, if you've got a 3-year lease and a 3-year option, if you were to do a 1-year lease with 6 1-year options, that would also be something that you could do. You said, well, I'm not sure about this. I want to give it a go for a year. I'm gonna decide. In 12 months, we're gonna see if we want to execute that option. The problem with that is there is some legal fees involved. You do need to notify the landlord of your desire to exercise the option some months ahead of the termination of the lease. So it's not as quick and simple as you think, right? A 1-year lease goes very quickly, and before you know it, you're needing to exercise an option that you haven't exercised. Guys, I want to come back to another point that we spoke about, which was the idea of the landlord putting up the rent. So the next tip I've got for you, if you're negotiating a lease, is you want to limit the amount of yearly increases. Your rent will go up every year, and that's because inflation is considered a pressure on all sorts of cost factors within an economy. And of course, that means rent as well. So landlords will have to put up the rent every year. It can be in step with inflation. Historically, that's been 2 to 3%, but As we now know, it's somewhere around 7%. And that's not necessarily something that a lot of businesses can afford to pay, but that is what their lease says they are liable to pay. So you want to be careful around the options. For example, if a landlord came to you and said 10% increases every year, that would mean that every 10 years your rent will double. I'm sorry, it'd be quicker than that because there's the compound factor of interest. So, 10% increases every year is a very, very bad lease for a tenant. Great lease for a landlord. You want to be somewhere in the low 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. I've seen obviously inflationary things at the moment with 7% is the norm. And that's why prices are going up everywhere and people are squeezing and businesses are going out of business. So anything above 4 or 5%, I would say, is going to put too much pressure on most businesses. But there are obviously some very successful businesses out there with very, very high margins that may be able to afford that. So number one, options. Number two, percentage increases on the value of the lease or the term of the lease. The next one I want to talk to you about is the personal guarantee. So it is commonplace to personally guarantee a lease. Most landlords for new businesses will not accept a lease without a personal guarantee. So my advice here is a little bit mixed for new businesses. I think initially you may have to sign a personal guarantee. And I've done it. I've lost sleep over it. I've had some very, very difficult lease negotiations in the past, including breaking leases, including paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars to landlords because a location didn't work for me. So I speak from experience here, guys. Personal guarantee means you're putting everything you have on the line. They can take your car, your house, any assets under your name, any cash in your bank, the watch on your wrist. And until you're a certain size, a lot of landlords will insist on a personal guarantee. So I would say to you that you should, if you're very, very sure about your business and you have enough cash flow in the bank to, for example, on a 2-year lease, if you were paying $2,000 a month on a 2-year lease, that's a $48,000 lease. And if you have, for argument's sake, $100,000 in your bank account today, even in a worst case scenario, if the world ended tomorrow and you had to pay the $48,000 off in one day, you can write a check and do it. And he wants a personal guarantee, sign away. No problem. All right? It's a short lease with not a very high amount of rent and you've got cash in the bank. If you've got a very expensive lease, $20,000 a month, with a longer lease, 5-year term, and not that much cash in the bank, or still a reasonable amount of cash in the bank, but not wanting to part with, that's $240,000 times 5 plus yearly increases. If you were going to go and pay out that lease, it's more than $1.25 million. I would be careful. I can't comment for every situation with every lease type and every personal tenant landlord situation. All I will say is that if you're a good operator, you've been doing what you've been doing for a while, for a long time, for a proven period, you do not need to sign the guarantee. Just flat out refuse. Now, in lieu of the personal guarantee, they may ask you to provide a larger bank guarantee, a larger bond. So traditionally in commercial leases, it can be around 3 months. So for example, in that earlier example, it's $20,000 a month rent. Your normal bond should be $60,000. They ask you for a personal guarantee. You say, hell no. And they may say to you, look, we need a 6-month or a 9-month bond. I've had a 9-month bond as a landlord. Right? We had a large fitness chain wanting to go into one of my properties, refused to personally guarantee the property, gave me some story that head office doesn't allow their franchisees to go to do personal guarantees anymore. May or may not be true, I'm not sure. I was unwilling to do the deal for a 6-month bond. Right? They were going to make significant changes in fit out to my property. So I wasn't very interested in that. But after some negotiation, I asked for 12 months. They came back at 7 months, 10 months. They agreed to a 9-month bond, which under them was a $270,000 bond. So they were paying $30,000 a month. And I thought that was a significant amount of money. They wouldn't want to walk away from it and lose it, even if in a worst case scenario they did do some damage or happen to vacate the property overnight by breaking the lease. I was pretty well protected by having such a large bond in place and I could carry out any works and reparation works to the property that might be required. So I accepted that deal. So every deal's different. Every deal's different. Every landlord's different. Every tenant is different. Timing is different. I know some of the deals I was doing in the middle of COVID, it was very difficult to find certainty, right? So someone comes off a lease, pandemic, there's lockdowns, business wants to stay there, but they happen to be at the end of their lease. You also want certainty for your tenant, but they don't really want to guarantee something because, lockdown could come again. It could ruin their whole life. And you've got to be conscious of this as a landlord or a tenant, right? There's a delicate balance here to get right. Landlords often have bills to pay. I mean, they've got an asset that needs to grow. Like any of us, if we've got money in the bank or money sitting in an asset, we want it working for us. And that is done through a commercial lease. And tenants have a similar problem, right? They have a business that needs to work for them, a business that needs to turn over dollars and deliver results to them, to their family, to their investment that they've made, to their dreams and aspirations. And landlords need to be aware of this. So one of our roles at Agentify is understanding tenants, understanding what switches them on, and then recommending to our clients, okay, great tenant, well-motivated, great operator, heavily invested into this location. Let's go ahead and deliver them, I guess, the best lease that we can give them, because if we lose this tenant, I don't know that we're going to get a better tenant. And so that delicate balance is right. And of course, the tenant can leave as well, go down the road. There's a cheaper location down the road. You know what? The landlord doesn't want to fix the leak. That's a $40,000 leak. That's on you. The cost has been put on the tenant. So it's one of those balances that we want to get right. And we really want to make sure that when we're negotiating leases, when we're negotiating commercial leases in particular, that some of these things are nutted out and worked through earlier rather than later, because the biggest mistake that I have seen in commercial leases is a tenant who is too keen to get into a property too soon and has some sort of vague deadline that they've applied arbitrarily in their mind. And what that does is it rushes a deal that often can have dire consequences down the track. So guys, it's very, very important to just understand what rent is. It is a tax. It is a bad tax. I call it a tax because it's not something that you can escape once you've signed up to it. It's not something that you can negotiate once you've signed up to it. It is a fixed cost, and it often grows at rates higher than taxation does. So it may as well be viewed as a tax, because future value and future asset value, future capital gain is not to your benefit. It's all to the benefit of the landlord, which is why I want you guys to be business owners and landlords. I want you guys to be business owners and property and real estate owners. And I want to show you how I've done it. And I think that at the end of the day, I mean, if you're in small business, if you're thinking about getting into small business, the difficulties with it. So your business plan should include the acquisition of real estate. Now, some people say to me, Sanjay, you're nuts. Well, what are you talking about? I run an eyelash business. I run an eyebrow threading studio. I run a locksmith company with a mobile van. What are you talking? Why would I need real estate? I'm telling you need real estate. I'm telling you need real estate, and we help you acquire it. And I'm telling you need it because the game is stacked against you. There will always be tenants. There will always be small businesses renting. So you've just got to decide which side of the table you want to come over to, right? We obviously need businesses renting, because then you and I can't be landlords if everyone's an owner. But as you go through the growth life cycle of a business, if you're more than 7 years old in your business life and you haven't even considered buying real estate, I'm talking to you. If you're 7 months in, hustle. Work on your business. The minute you get 3 years in, talk to me, call me, start looking at real estate. And for some of you, it's sooner. Some businesses' growth trajectory is like that. Some is like that, and some is even a bit more steady and like that. But if you're going like this, if you're going like a rocket ship, you should be calling me as soon as possible to acquire real estate, because I'm telling you that's the game. That's been the game since McDonald's Corporation did it. For those of you that have seen the movie The Founder with Ray Kroc, fantastic movie. I mean, I love the McDonald's movie. The best thing about the McDonald's movie is what? It's when you see Ray Kroc, the actor playing Ray Kroc. And there's a great book as well called Grinding It Out, which I've read many times. It's one of my favorite books. But you see the genius behind Ray Kroc. At the end of the day, McDonald's does not make the world's best hamburger. They really don't. They're not even amongst the top 10 of the world's best burgers. But they're the world's most successful burger chain. They're the world's most successful fast food chain. They're the world's most successful fast food real estate organization. They are an absolute powerhouse. I believe, if I'm not wrong, I mean, certainly in countries like Australia, they are amongst the most successful cafes. They sell more coffee in Australia than any other retailer. I'm pretty sure. We will check with Tim, founder of Voodoo Coffee, Tim Wiles, who we'll be interviewing here in another podcast. But I'm almost certain that that is the case. They are a very, very large coffee producer. The world's largest drive-through operating business. I'm sure the world's largest chain with a clown icon running the business, or at least the face of the business. You know, the world's largest buyer of potatoes, the world's highest selling soft serves, one of Coca-Cola's largest customers. You know, there's a lot of things we could talk about. But what they did so well, what the book shows so well, what the movie shows so well, is when they transitioned, when he met the McDonald brothers. And he was elated. And I've been to Illinois, to the original McDonald's. I've seen the original Golden Arches, and it's quite a sight. It's quite a sight. There used to be a museum there at the very first store. There is no longer one there. I've also been to the San Bernardino location, which is featured in the movie. You know, I have been a fan of this story for some time. And the speedy service system that the McDonald's brothers developed that said this much lettuce, this much sauce, this many pickles, tomato on a sesame seeded bun, and boom, was fantastic. They were rolling it out. You may have that in your business. Right? I don't know what business some of you are operating in, but you may have that in your business. But it wasn't until Ray Kroc understood, when he opened his own franchise and he started selling a few franchises to friends, and he said, holy shit, we're not a burger business. We're a real estate business. We're going to use this carrot of selling burgers quickly, but we're going to create cash flow from the real estate. We're going to control our franchisees through the real estate. We're going to create capital gains through real estate. We're going to be able to control our net leases through real estate. We're going to be able to approach cities and councils in terms of signage and location and zoning and ability to operate, after hours zoning, 24/7 trading. We're going to do all of that because we own our own real estate. We're going to go direct. We're going to own the soil. And that's something that I'm saying to some of you guys that should be considered. Now, if you own a florist in Pitt Street, Wynyard Station in Sydney, or, you know, one of the busiest stations in your city, if you're there on, you know, Fifth Avenue in New York, I don't think you can afford to buy the real estate that you're in. You need the location. You need the traffic. I get it. Don't tell me that story. My question to you is, the florist that is an hour west, 3 hours west, 5 hours west, 8 hours west, can you afford that real estate? And if you can, why have you not bought it? And I know the reason that most of us haven't. I was slow to do it myself. It's because you're doing it. You're cutting flowers, you're cutting thorns off, you're wrapping flowers, you're changing water. You're so busy running your business that you've got no clue that the investment that could be made on that side of the country, that part of the state, that town not that far away from you, could just be a massive game changer for you and your financial situation. And when you're in retirement and you've sold the flower shop in the middle of the city, the 1, 2, 3, 4, hopefully 50 flower shop real estate portfolio that you've created is paying you a handsome income, growing year on year as a result. It's the best strategy for business owners. I only work with business owners. I don't work with people that have jobs. Sorry to those of you that are watching this that do have a job. If you're interested in starting a business, I do take some inquiries about people that have started, or one of the partners in a relationship has a business and has some flexibility around income. But this is generally a closed discussion to people that work in government or work in corporate jobs. It's not something that we really cater to. You've chosen a different path. You know, you've chosen a path of consistent, stable, quite frankly, boring income. And we're over here on the freedom and the liberty side, where having cash flow and having a business and taking the entrepreneurial leap is a very important part of what entrepreneurs should be doing. So, when I talk about companies like McDonald's or Walmart or Bunnings in Australia or some of the really successful stories that have come out of the last 100 years in business, I want you to understand that real estate has always been a part of business success. This is not, what I'm saying is nothing new. I'm not here and saying, oh, look, the SME guru, has a T-shirt, and this T-shirt shows that the greedy landlord is now finally greedier than ever and will change and rip us off. They've always done that. There's a difference though. This is one of my pet peeves about modern day business. I mean, what we had in the past, large businesses were large family businesses. The Ford Motor Company, Sam Walton and Walmart, Ray Kroc and the McDonald's brothers, John Pemberton and Coca-Cola. I can name off so many of them. I mentioned Bunnings in Australia. There's been countless businesses that were started by individuals that might have become a family organization and corporatized in the historic form. We don't see that anymore, guys. What we see today is Google, Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, and some very, very successful large businesses that control the dynamic and the discussion in the business sphere today. They are against small business. They are anti-small business because they are pro-government. They tell a lie. They put a ping pong table in for the employees. They have extra drinks on Fridays, beer on tap. Who would have thought that would convince so many people to work for them and dedicate their lifetimes to them? They have campuses. They don't have offices. I mean, even IBM, one of the first truly corporate businesses, was nothing near what we see today. Nothing. So, Googleplex, I've been there. Apple's campus, I've been there. I've made the trip to Silicon Valley. The colored bicycles, the museum tours, the fantastic cafes, the social life, the sleeping pods. It's all well and good, guys, but it's not something that small business does, and it's not something that's favorable to small business. Understand the game that's going on and understand that we're in this together. Support local, support small, wherever you can. You know what I'm talking about as well. The bread just tastes better from the small bakery. The meat just tastes better from the local butcher. You used to get better service at the gas station, petrol station, but now there aren't many of those petrol stations left that are individually operated. Smaller gym chains were better than larger gym chains. Smaller hairdressers gave better haircuts than larger hairdressers. Smaller masseuses gave better massages than larger masseuses. I could go on and on. Small is winning. Small is winning. I like small. I'm one of the few people, I'll put my hand up and say, I like small. While the world is going big, I like small. And I like people that operate small, that pay attention to detail, that offer world's best service. I mean, I want you to understand this. I'm sitting in Sydney, Australia right now, but I could be speaking to any Western democracy. These are the halcyon days. These are the days when people will remember I'm coming to you on a computer, on a phone, and people are live streaming. People are watching it 5, 10 minutes, hours, days, years later. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you can see me, you can hear me, you can take in what I'm saying, and I'll be able to take in your responses here. So it's a fascinating world that we live in, and perhaps the best part of the world that we currently live in is that it is flexible and free for small business to act as they want. And that's why I want some of us to band together and really come behind some of the concepts that I'm talking about here. It's the most important thing that we can do as a small business. So guys, I'm all done for now. I've really enjoyed giving you my 2 cents, as they say it here. We're available on our websites, on our socials. Please like, comment, follow, and subscribe. We want to hear more from you. We want to come back to you with content that you might want to know. I'm going to be doing another video about my story. I want you to listen to that. There's some other videos coming, my top 10 tips for small business, my top 3 things to look for in an employee, because hiring for small business is very different to hiring for big business. So what are the top 3 things that you're looking for when you're hiring an employee in small business? We're going to be doing a special video on family businesses. Family businesses are extremely dynamic and unique. They require a different skill set. Leadership can be difficult, but the results can be quite amazing. And there are some very large, successful businesses that have stemmed out of successful family businesses. And guys, speaking about family, I'm trying to create a family here. So please do reach out. Please do subscribe, like, comment, and follow. And I will talk to you guys again soon. Thank you.